Okay, so the next topic I want to talk about, we've shown that there are forces, some that we know well about: Soros, Arabella, Tides, others in the past, up to a few months ago, U.S.A. that are working in adverse purposes to what Trump is trying to achieve and do. We now see that there may be something going on with certain Congress people who may be trying to suggest that the U.S. military might not necessarily want to follow what they're being told to do. Now, we won't do a conclusion on this, but listen to what they have to say, and then I'm going to pull up something that might be taken to heart by folks that might be doing such things. We know that there have been people across Congress that have pushed back on certain initiatives. There are people pushing back as we speak about certain things, not just the Democrats, but in fact, some Republicans, which is surprising and perhaps worrisome. So let's watch the video first, and then I'll show you a couple other things.
Senator Alyssa Slotkin.
Senator Mark Kelly.
Representative Chris Deluzio.
Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander.
Representative Chrissy Houlahan.
Congressman Jason Crow.
I was a captain in the United States Navy.
Former CIA officer.
Former Navy.
Former paratrooper and Army Ranger.
Former intelligence officer.
Former Air Force.
We want to speak directly to members of the military
and the intelligence community
who take risks each day
to keep Americans safe.
We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now.
Americans trust their military,
but that trust is at risk.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
and intelligence community professionals
against American citizens.
Like us. You all swore an oath
to protect and defend this Constitution.
And right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad,
but from right here at home.
Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law
or our Constitution.
We know this is hard,
and that it's a difficult time to be a public servant.
But whether you're serving in the CIA,
the Army,
or Navy,
the Air Force,
your vigilance is critical.
And know that we have your back.
Because now, more than ever,
the American people need you.
We need you to stand up for our laws,
our Constitution,
and who we are as Americans. Don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't give up the ship.
Okay. So the message there appears to be that the administration, which they're talking about Trump and the administration, are in some way providing guidance, orders that they want you to believe are illegal or unconstitutional. Now, I've watched darn carefully ever since the administration went in. Now, there's been things that people didn't like at almost every turn, but they didn't like them because they changed the dynamic in America back toward what it should be, a republic, or they take out of play money flows that they would prefer to keep in place, things like U.S. aid, things perhaps like the billions of dollars that were flowing to Ukraine, which no longer are. And so in some way, they are trying, it appears, in my opinion, to portray some of the things that Trump's doing as in some way illegal or unconstitutional. They make a true statement, which is the military does not, and correct me if I'm wrong, Todd, but the military takes an oath to abide by the Constitution and the laws of the United States, correct?
Yeah, that's true. Opine, and then I will opine.
Okay.
I have something to say about this.
Okay, very good. So that's a true statement. However, they are trying to cast it in a view that in some way Trump is ordering something, or maybe ordering many things that are not legal. I have not found anything that has been any direction that's been given to the military that is either illegal or unconstitutional. And where it's been challenged, you will note that many of the things have ended up in one court or another, and all the way up to the Supreme Court has found in favor of just about every initiative of Trump's to date. That means that in their judgment, these things are lawful and constitutional. Now, so what do you have to say to people that are trying to portray it otherwise? Well, perhaps a review of something called 18 U.S.C. 2387 might be interesting, because that law, it's a federal law, makes it a crime to encourage subordinates, disloyalty, mutiny, or refusal to fulfill their duty within the U.S. military. You can read the rest of this, including the penalties. But the bottom line is, if they are trying to do something that in some way encourages the military not to follow lawful orders or not to follow constitutional orders, that encouragement is in and of itself potentially a crime. Isn't that interesting? Why would these people put themselves in the middle of such a potential dispute? Doesn't seem to make a lot of sense, but it smacks to me of some level of panic. I think that they have to find a way to get some of these things to stop. And they're trying everything that they can come up with to put thoughts in people's minds that would cause them to believe that in some way something is not legal, is not constitutional. Okay, Todd, your thoughts.
Well, I think everybody knows I graduated from the Air Force Academy with a regular commission in the United States Air Force, and that is the commission is it's exactly that. It's a commission to you from the president to enact his will, essentially, the commander in chief. So as an officer, so we were trained heavily in these in what is a legal order and what is not. And you mentioned the civilian ramifications to someone in the outside the military trying to instigate sedition against military members. But anyone who's considering not following the commander-in-chief's orders must realize that the UCMJ is not very forgiving on that at all, which is the Uniform Code of Military Justice, which all the military members would be subject to. So you have this these people. And one thing, we just went through a big huge issue with this during the Biden administration, where Secretary Hegseth, the Department of War, came out and said, yes, the vaccine mandate for military personnel was an unlawful order, and many of them, the woke generals, followed it, and we were very vocal about that. You need to resign. The example I gave was Richard Clark, who was the chief or the superintendent of the Air Force Academy, forced these people, even cancer recovery survivors, to take this shot, which weakens immune system. And there are multiple cases of likely deaths at the academy from taking this vaccine, turbo cancers, dropping dead on the terrazzo, that kind of stuff, which you've seen throughout the civilian force or civilian community. But this all goes back to like My Lai in Vietnam, where they were ordered to kill civilians, and they did, and that was an illegal order. But the commander-in-chief has used the military in emergency situations across the United States since history, Washington on down, to even the integration in Arkansas, I believe, in the civil rights movement. They sent troops down there. So this is entirely legal. And I would highly caution anyone that in the military that thinks they're just going to disobey the commander-in-chief. There's serious consequences to that, and you will be court-martialed. And if you're willing to take your chances, then you're risking years in jail. So be aware. It's not cool. Back to you.
Wow, wonderful points. The other thing I wanted to make sure people understood is you mentioned the Uniform Code of Military Justice. One of the things that people forget is there are basically two types of governance, law, if you want to call it that, in place in the United States. One is military law, one is civilian law, our court system that most people think of when we think of law. And they are different. And it is important to remember that those are different, because you can't make a judgment about one without really knowing that. And I had a conversation, if you recall, with David Clements just a few days ago. And this is one of the things he called out. He has been a law professor. He knows the court system, the regular court system of the United States, if you will, very well, to the point where he's expert. Yet he recognized and called out that military dynamics are much, much different. And so that's an important thing for folks to remember. The other is that Trump has called for certain factions of the military to be already involved to some extent, or be it ready at least, where we have some of these protests that appear to be created by outside influence, Soros, Arabella, Tides Organization, and more, referred to in an encompassing term called Riot Inc. by the advisors to the president. They are, we need to be remembering that these things have been called upon to be ready in case. Hopefully they won't be needed, but the point is, if they are needed, and they need to be ready to move. So we're hoping that this doesn't come to such a thing, but even if it were, everything that I've seen so far indicates that whatever would be done is going to be, we could expect it, just like everything that's been done up to now, to be lawful and constitutional and called for if things need.
Well,
it.